Well, the question is quite complicated. It depends on your relationship with a variety of different things. How often you look yourself in the mirror. How aware you're of your history. If you have accepted your regrets. If you have any hopes and dreams about your future. If the past still haunts you. You add all of those up, you don't usually wake up in a good mood. I'm sorry, I'm great. Yeah. Anyone else? Yeah. If you could say your name first.
Lucia.
Lucia, yes.
We have class on Monday. It's Labor Day.
Hello. Labor Day. Is the holiday?
Yeah.
Do you want to come to school? Okay, then it's a holiday. Anyone else? Yeah.
Josephine.
Josephine.
Claire.
Claire. Okay.
How do you accept your regrets?
Can I come up with a lousy scenario?
Yes.
Would you mind?
No.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. And let me apologize, and please forward my apologies to every single class that we have for the remainder of the semester. That's just the way my mind works. So I'll create a very intimate scenario because that's the only way I can explain things. You know, when you don't reflect on things well, and none of us do, and none of us can. You know, when you hire someone to build a house for you, you look at their experiences, you pay them for their experience. You don't pay them for their naivete, because then if it's only been their second day at the job and they have zero experience, there's a good chance they're going to make a lot of mistakes. And then it's going to waste your time, stress you out, all that. And since none of us are experts in life, we are winging it from the moment you wake up, for the most part, to the time we go to bed. Now imagine you're single, and imagine I'm single. And you go to a coffee shop very innocently to buy yourself a cappuccino of sorts. And I'm sitting there, hello, Ahmed, how are you?
I'm fine, yeah.
Good, what happened to you on Monday? Wednesday? Monday?
Yeah, I thought we have a class on 10.
Oh, at 10?
Yeah, 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Even at 10 I came late.
Say again?
Even at 10 I came late. Like, I came 7:30.
It's okay. So, you've never really examined the human condition, why you're lonely, why you feel isolated, why you're a little sad. And when you're lonely and sad and depressed to some extent, you remain invisible. No one looks at you, no one pays you attention. You don't even like yourself, so you don't even look at yourself. So you come to a coffee shop, I'm sitting there reading a book, I don't know, some book. And I look relatively interesting, and you look relatively interesting to me, as I am interesting to you. And so, since I'm Persian, I'm a little shy, a little reserved, a little introvert. Even though I may be attracted to you, I'm not going to come up and say, hey. So, and since you're American, free, brave, all that stuff, you're going to approach me and say, hi, my name is the American Jackie. So, oh, okay, how are you? We begin to have a conversation of sorts, and you say, can I sit down? Yes, of course. Then we start up a conversation. The first thing I ask is, so how old are you? You say, well, I'm 25. I say, well, good, I'm 60. Now, one of the things about being attracted to anything is that, and God forbid if you fall in love, is that attraction consumes you. You don't think. It's like a painkiller. It doesn't allow you to see what sits in front of you. All you know is that you're attracted. And it's an emotion like anger, like frustration. It overtakes you. And then we sit there, we talk for about 4, 5, 6 hours. Then you go your way, I go my way. Abi, hello. Hello, how are you? Is it the holy holiday or no? Okay. And before you leave, you say, do you want to meet again? I say, sure. You text me, we get together again and again and again and again and again. Now, something very interesting happens. When you find yourself attracted to something. When you're attracted to something, anything, you have a desire. This is a seed. You give it time, you give it imagination, you give it attention, you give it focus, it turns into desire. Once you have a desire, you feel a void. That there is something that I desire, but I yet don't have. Now, depending on what this desire is, okay, it'll either be a passing thing or you will pursue it. Okay. Now, remember, there is a void. Depending on how deep the void is, that will give you the value of pain. Okay? If, for example, this is your first day in this class and you and I have never met and all of a sudden I have a stroke, you say, well, what's going to happen to my grade? Sure, you may be a sentimental human being. You may say, I'm really, really sad that this guy just died, but is the class going to get canceled? If, on the other hand, you've been here for about 14 weeks and all of a sudden I pass out and I never recover, you're going to be very, very sad because we've built a relationship for the past 14 years. So the pain, the anguish of me dying right in front of you will be a bit more intense. And the recovery will take some more time. Now, you will try to somehow satisfy this void, but it's only a tiny little desire. But because you and I have had a conversation, have you enjoyed it? The desire turns into a want. I want to see Amir, and I say, I want to see Claire. Okay? Now, want is very different. Attention comes about within maybe 5 seconds. Once you pay it some attention, attraction. Once you pay some attention, focus, and nourishment, it turns into a desire. And it occupies more space inside you. Okay? Now remember, as things begin to occupy more space inside you, you begin to have a relationship with them. And it's very difficult to just push them aside, unless there is no attraction. Now attraction could be negative, it could be positive. Okay? Negative attraction is you have a trauma inside you, it just refuses to go away. There is a part of you that enjoys that. You may not accept it, but you enjoy it. Because it gives you meaning, it gives you purpose. You know you're angry and you know who you're angry with. And then when you go to therapy, for example, you talk about your father, you talk about your mother, you talk about your boyfriend, you talk about cancer. Okay? Now, all of us in this class want a whole host of things. You want a boyfriend, you want a Tesla, you want a degree, you want money. But even if you don't have a Tesla, you're okay with driving a donkey. Okay? So just in case you don't get what you want, it's not going to cause you that much pain. If, on the other hand, want turns into a need, that's a very, very different story. You come to a coffee shop, you find yourself attracted to me. You have the desire to talk to me. After talking, you realize I'm somewhat interesting. You say, I want to talk to him again. Now, we talk some more. There comes a point where it's no longer a want. You just don't want to talk to me. You need to talk to me. And in need, there is intimacy. In need, there is history. In need, there is attachment. I need to forget my father, what he did. I need to forget my ex. They have a good amount of space inside you. Okay? Now, there comes a point where your need turns into obsession. Obsession eventually turns into love. Let's say you and I find yourself in the forest somewhere, we're sitting having a sandwich, and you don't really know how to phrase it. You look at me and you say, Amir, I love you. And I say, I love you too. I'm 60. I have more time behind me than in front of me. You have more time ahead of you. I'm ending my life, you're beginning your life. But this is not the stuff you're thinking about, reflecting on. You think the way I am now, I will be for another 20, 30 years, and that's not going to be the case. And it doesn't matter how much I tell you, Claire, you're young. Go find someone in your own time, from your own culture. You may like me, you may even love me. Go somewhere else. Take a break for a year. You will forget all about me. Find yourself a Jack or a Luke or a John. Get married, have a few kids. I'll be completely forgotten. But you won't get that. So you and I now get into a relationship. You're governed by hopes and fantasies and dreams. You don't look at my age. You don't look at my culture. You don't look at my history. You don't look at my experiences. You're just in love. And like when you go to a bar, you drink and you want to sit behind the wheels and drive, and your friends say, no one should drive intoxicated. Your parents tell you, Claire, you're drunk with love. You shouldn't drive your life. Don't make life-changing decisions while being in love. That's not the best policy. And you look at your mom and say, oh, mom, what the hell do you know? I know best. Okay. Now, as our relationship becomes more intimate, more intense, you say, I want to go out with my friends. I say, friends? You got no friends. I'm the only friend you have. Well, let's invite them to the house. No, I don't want to hang out with 20-year-olds. For what? Well, you want to go like on trips? No. I like to sit home, relax, maybe have good conversations, some good food, and watch TV. And little by little, you'll experience cracks in our relationship. And then, after maybe a year or two, you lay in bed and you whisper to yourself, the hell am I doing? This guy's almost dead. I want to leave, but I can't. And now regret begins to creep in. How do you have regrets? You move towards something without having full knowledge as to why. You invest a good amount of time, energy, and emotions into the thing you're in a relationship with. You spend time and energy. That's a good amount of investment. You have a historical relationship with the thing. One morning you wake up and you realize things are not going your way. Regret comes when? Not at the beginning, not in the middle, maybe once in a while, but there is something that happens to you after a few months or a few years where something about you cracks open and you begin to see something, and what you see you don't like. So that's the first thing you need to understand about regret. It doesn't happen immediately. It happens when time passes. And I don't know if any of you in this class have ever been with an alcoholic. Okay. I have never, but one of our car washes when we had a couple was very close to an AA center. And we used to have, some of those people come to the car wash, sit and talk and wash their cars. Very, very, very nice people. I forget what I was saying. Okay. Hi. So at a certain point you catch yourself and you want to overcome the history. But the truth is you can't overcome a history if you don't understand it. It's not possible. The first thing that will happen is, because we're not the sort of creatures, and we've talked about this plenty of times, we don't enjoy pain. We don't enjoy confronting the sort of flaws that live inside us. It's too much. First you see. Then it depends on whether or not you have the tools or the resources to combat, to overcome the emotions that come about once you begin to witness some things. You won't be able to. Just because you see something, it doesn't mean that you know what to do with it. Just because you have a piece of knowledge, it doesn't mean you know how to use it. If you've ever gone on YouTube to find a recipe for a dish, try it out. Go home today and find the recipe for chicken tikka masala. Go to the store, buy all the ingredients, and then start cooking. And it's not going to come out good. Not at least the first 20, 30, 40, 50 times. Even though you have the recipe, even though you have the ingredients. Okay. Now, you imagined that the path you're on is the right one. Time passes, you realize, no, it's not the right one. You've invested the time, energy, you've created a history, now you want to overcome it. Now, regret also comes with a sense of loss. Loss. It's like something about you is dead. You have killed the time. You have killed your youth. Imagine that I, as your boyfriend or your husband, am an alcoholic. You forgive me the first time, second time, third time. Then you say to yourself, you talk to your mom about it, he says, why don't you guys go to therapy? You try. Why don't you go to church? You try. Read the Bible together. You try. You come to the AA center with me. You do all that stuff for one simple reason. You assume that because you hope, and because hope gives you stamina and patience, you're able to put me through rehab and fix me up. It's never going to happen. The only thing you have is hope. You have no power over my addiction. There comes a point in your life where one morning you wake up and you say, Claire, you have been with Amir for about 5 years. You've tried everything. Now reality hits you. He's never going to be different. He's never going to change. And though you're only 25, you feel as if you're 50. You have lost time, you have lost energy, you have lost positive emotions, you have lost hope and dreams, you have lost a relationship. You no longer know who you are in this relationship. I have destroyed every ounce of hope that lives inside you. Now you have grief. Now you try to speak about your grief to your companions. No one's going to understand you. هر کسی از ظن خود شد یار من و از درون من نجست اسرار من. Everybody interprets what I'm going through. I don't want interpretation. I want someone to be in my shoes, to see me the way I see myself, to be in my relationship, to experience the horrifying environment I'm in, inwardly as well as outwardly. But no one is able to do that. And grief always, always, always will push you into being absolutely alone and isolated. And if your relationship with that aloneness is very severe, very intense, you will fall into sadness. Sadness turns into sorrow. And you try to overcome them, but you can't. Sorrow will turn into depression. And all you see is darkness. And then throughout this entire stage, you will have a good amount of regret. Why? He told me he's 60. In his voice, in his comments, I once in a while smelled that he is no good. Why did I continue? And you don't need a Jesus Christ to put you on the cross. You will do a great job about putting yourself on the cross on your own. And here's the thing, if the kingdom of God lives inside you, if Jesus Christ is right, and if all of us in this class have moments of conscience, that something about you wakes up, sees something, understands the thing that it sees, you will punish yourself. You don't need anyone. That kingdom of God, that awareness that lives inside all of us, it comes up and says, you made a mistake, now you got to pay the price. You're going to bleed a little. You're going to be alone. If you have the proper tools, you'll hopefully recover after 5, 10, 15, 20 years, depending on what it is you're regretting. If you have no tools, well, therapy, medication, and all that stuff. And you'll be held hostage for the rest of your life. The thing you need to know about regret is that none of us are exempt from it. It doesn't matter how you live. It doesn't matter what you do. You will have some regret because we have no choice but to make mistakes in life. The deeper the history you have with something about which you're regretful, the deeper the roots, the more difficult it is to bring them up and get rid of them. The more difficult it is to see them, to feel them. It's something I was sharing with my students yesterday in class, that there is a guy, Abraham Maslow. We talked about him on Monday. He was a great psychologist. He really was. But he hated his mother. And even though he was a great introspective psychologist, he was never able to bring the image of his own mother alive and say, she's an immigrant from Russia, she was only 15, she was this, she was that. Was never able to do that. He continued to categorize her as a mean-spirited, evil bitch. Quote. So again, just because you see something, it doesn't mean you can overcome it. And it may be your case that you will just live with regret for the rest of your life. I hope not. So. There is this beautiful poem in Persian. I don't know who the poet is. روسا فکر من این است همه شب سخنم که چرا فارغ از احوال دل خویشتنم. I'm sorry, it's not that one. تی شد این عمر تو دانی به چسان پوچ و بستون چنان باد دمان. همه تقصیر من است اینو خودم میدانم که نکردم فکری که تأمل ننمودم روزی ساعتی یا آنی که چسان میگذرد عمر گران. کودکی رفت به بازی به فراغت به نشاط فارغ از مرگ و بد و نیک و حیات. همه گفتند کنون تا بچه است بگذارید بخندد خندان که پس از این دیگرش فرصت خندیدن نیست بایدش نالیدن. من نپرسیدم هیچ کس نیز نگفت که پس از این ز چه رو نتوان خندیدن سر هر بام که شد نالیدن خوابیدن. And the point is that whoever the poet is, he must be in his late years, where he says, my life passed by like a wind. I have no idea when it began. I have no idea how it was spent. I have no idea how it's going to end. But all I know is now I'm 70. And I look back, my childhood, what a waste. Crying after a doll, after a bicycle. My youth, the explosion of sexual desires. Yuck. I spent all of my youth chasing after the opposite of the same sex. Domination, aggression. Then money, going to school, getting a job, having a family, putting up with a wife or a husband, raising brats called kids who will end up nowhere really. And now, after having spent most of my time in life, I sit back and I realize I have nothing. So here is one of those great regrets from one of those great sages of humanity named Jesus Christ in the Gospel of Judas. It's a great book for those of you who are interested in just reading good literature. You know, here's a guy who talks to people, does magic tricks, is all about compassion and forgiveness. There comes a point in the Gospel of Judas, he looks at his disciples and says, you know what? People suck. Life sucks. They can never change anything. My body is a prison. I look at homeless people and I feel sad, but there isn't much I can do. I look at politicians and their corruption. There isn't much I can do. Everywhere I look, I feel bad, but there isn't much I can do. I even try magic tricks to inspire people, to motivate them toward self-knowledge, but they forget. So if I die, I can no longer see, taste, smell, touch, or hear. So he goes to Judas and says, Judas, can you kill me? Give me to the Romans. And once I die, my soul can go back to God. It's kind of like V for Vendetta, the very last scene in the movie, where he says, I want to go back to my maker. So, and if you follow a storyline, he leaves his house at the age of 12. God knows where he went, what he suffered. He comes back at the age of 30. He's a bucket of wisdom and insight and stories. He comes back, shares those things with us. What do? We create an organization, a religion. And we punish people with their ideas. And so after all of that, he says, I've done all this stuff only to realize there are no real customers. I just want to die. That's a huge regret. Why even come to life if life is nothing but a set of disappointments? Since you're going to have no choice but to be confronted with one regret after another, the question is, what are you going to do about it? You come to my office and say, Amir, I missed assignment 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I really desperately need this class. What do I need to do to pass this class? Now, let's just say you come to me and you say, I have this story inside me, and it has haunted me for the past 5 years. I'm miserable because of it. I am like a nomad. A nomad is someone who has no stability. You may have a home, a physical home, but emotionally, you're never going to create history with anyone. You don't trust anyone. You're jumping from one human being to another, one relationship to another, and you make sure that that relationship never takes roots. Because if you have roots, you are grounded. It took me about 10 years to convince someone to sign a goddamn lease to an apartment for 2 years. They've been bed surfing or couch surfing for the past 20 years. Now, the addiction is, I don't like my life, I don't like myself. Every time I see too much of myself, I go crazy. So I'm always going to be moving around, and make sure that people will only see shadows of me, and I will only see shadows of myself. And as long as I remain at superficial level, I'll be fine. She's now 50. For the first time now, after a long while, she signed this 2-year lease. There is nowhere she can go now. She's bound. And she's got to deal with whatever it is that lives inside her. Now, let's just say you come to my office and you say, I have A, B, C, D. Now, just because you asked the question, it doesn't mean you have the capacity to receive the answer. Right now, you're only at the stage of saying, I suck. How can I change all the stuff? So, okay, well, that's the first step. You've come to realize you as a human being are no good. It has taken you 10 years to figure this out. That's 10 years of history making, 10 years of roots. It's like cocaine. You do cocaine once, it's going to take you 20 years to overcome it. And you're never going to completely overcome it. You can always go back to the world. Now, since you're a nomad and since you have lost your faith and love and trust and all of that stuff, I got to play some tricks on you. I'm going to say, Claire, why don't you come to the house? Meet the family, we'll have some food. Say, really? Say, yeah, really. You say, is that appropriate? I mean, you're my teacher and I'm a student. All that BS that's floating around these days. So yeah, that's fine. I mean, you're visiting with the family, you're fine. When I go home, I want to be left alone. But you pretend to be sincere, earnest. I invite you. You better greet my wife the right way and play with my kids when they come your way. I'm taking time out of my life. Now, if you've been addicted to that history for 20 years, I have to find a way for you to become addicted to me. How do you become addicted to me? You spend time. Every single day. You call me, you text me, you email me, you come to my classes, you come to the house. You vacuum, you do laundry. You're not yet ready for the answers to change your life. Because what I need to do is first build the trust that you have lost some 20 years ago. What are the chances of you staying? Not good. There's a good chance you're going to run away. Because you've never really been trained to stop being a nomad. Every time things get tough, you have to go away. You run away. That's how things are. So there are stages. You go through life, you catch yourself, you see some things about yourself, you hate yourself, you live in that hate and all the emotions for a long, long time. And then you ask for help. It doesn't mean you have the capacity to receive help, you just ask for help. Then some poor chap from somewhere out there needs to spend a good amount of time with you. And some of it is luck. Who the hell knows how this stuff works? And, you'll either bite or you won't, like a fish. And once you get caught in the net, it's going to be difficult because now you have to deal with a few things. You're dealing with a guy who keeps shoving you in your face and you don't like it. I also have to deal with your culture, which is quite crappy. Okay? You also have to deal with your own emotions. You have to deal with your own past. You have to deal with a whole host of things. Talk about carrying a cross. Now, if your back doesn't completely bend and break, if you're able to carry this cross for about 5, 6, 10, 15, 20 years, there's a chance that you may make it. The other thing you need to understand is America is a secular culture. Secular culture means most of the things advertised to you are referring to your flesh, to your social status, to your position in the world. Secular. Meat. Which means that most of the emotions you have deal with meat. Your mom, your dad, your school, money, job. You don't have time for really to do good self-reflection. So because your emotions are secular, because the culture is secular, your language is secular. The interpretation you give to words are secular, which means I have to kind of redefine everything for you as well. But now you're allergic to philosophy. You're allergic to religion. I have to remove that virus from your software as well. And then when I think about all this, really? So there is one human being who says, I need help, and I look at them, and I realize they have a Costco of virus inside them. Do I really want to put my life on pause and rescue them? Why? Why would I want to do that? What are the chances of their health being retrieved? 0.00002%?